Okay, now let's add the photos to our layout. Just like with the other papers and elements, you're just going to click and drag. Now I'm going to click these photo files. Alright, and you'll see that the photos are hidden, and that's because, like we talked about earlier, they're positioned in the layers palette below the papers. So I'm just going to highlight those 3 photos and drag them up so they're above the journaling box but below the frames. And I'm going to hide this large picture for now to show how we can format those. The other 2 pictures I've already cropped to size. So I'm just going to click and drag. Okay, now this photo I haven't cropped or resized yet. So to resize, just as we've done before, we're just going to drag, and I want it to be about the same height as the opening in the frame, so that's pretty good. And now I'm going to position it where I want it in the opening. Now you'll see that there's some of the picture overhanging right here, so I need to get rid of that. There's, again, a ton of different ways to do that, but how I'm going to do it is I'm going to select the rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to click and drag the part of the picture that I want to keep. So you'll see the marching ants right around the selection area that I've chosen. Now I'm going to hold Control, Shift, and click the J key. And what that did is it created 2 separate layers from that photo. One layer where I had my selection made, and then the remainder of the photo left over. So I'm just going to delete that remainder. And all it leaves is the part of the picture that I want within that frame. I'm going to merge these photos with the frame because I like to work with as few layers as possible. You might want to keep all of your layers intact, so if you decide you want to rearrange the photos, you can do that. Or if you want to replace a photo, there's a lot of different reasons why you might want to keep all of your layers, but just for purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to merge them because I think that fewer layers is better in this case. Now I'm going to add these last couple of embellishments. And again, they're positioned below the red paper. So I'm going to drag those up. Alright, and I'm going to put the snowflake right up here, and I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. And right at the end of the layout, I'm going to show you how to make sure everything's aligned. I want this down here, but I want it smaller. So again, as I resize the border and that snowflake embellishment, I'm holding my Alt key to keep it resized around the center. Okay, so let's add our title and journaling now. I'm going to select my text tool, and this is where you're going to change your font. I'm going to go ahead and leave it with Century Gothic because that's a font that everybody has on their system. It's very readable. So I'm just going to leave it, and I'm just going to click and start typing. And the reason you can't see it, other than the fact that it's positioned too low, is that I have white for my foreground color. So I'm going to click that, and I'm just going to choose a red with my eyedropper tool from the paper. That way everything's going to coordinate. Obviously I need it bigger, so I'm going to double click. And I like to resize with highlighted because as you make changes, it's immediate. If you don't have the font, if you don't have the words highlighted and you make changes, you can't see the effect until you commit them. So I like to have it highlighted so I can see what's happening in real time. And to change this 1 point at a time, I'm just using the scroll button on my mouse. If I scroll up, it's going to make the font larger. If I scroll down, it's going to make it smaller. 1 point at a time, you can see. And I also want to make this bold. Here we go. And I want to have this 2 different colors. So I'm going to highlight just the cookie portion. And if I click this little arrow right here, it's going to switch the foreground and background colors. And this blue, I'm going to select from the blue paper, but I want a little darker value. So I'm going to stay in the same family, but just darker. Okay, that's pretty good, and I'm going to position that really right about where it was. So now I'm going to add the date. Again, I'm going to select the text tool, click, only this time I'm going to flip it and I'm going to make December red and keep the date in blue. And I want it to be much smaller. So I'll go about there. That's pretty good. And then I'll go back to my move tool and position that right about there. Okay, so finally I'm going to add my text. And I want my text to fit in a specified area. If you want your text to fill a rectangle, for instance, I want my text to kind of be centered right under the title. And I know that I have the area from the title to this border to fill. So I'm going to just click and drag a box to fill that area. And then I'm going to start typing.